Uh, Today is story time.
Okay.
And I want to tell you about something which happened many years ago, which was so mysterious in the history of aviation and never to be understood to date.
What is that exactly?
Someone hijacked an aeroplane. It was having 36 passengers plus 6 crew members, and he asked for ransom of 200,000 US dollars.
Okay.
But by now, that money could be around 1.5 million US dollars.
That is a lot of money.
He was paid the ransom. He vanished and never to be found till now. Even the FBI don't know what happened and where he is.
What?
Now, it is in November 24th, 1971, on Thanksgiving Eve in USA. During this day, a man carrying a black briefcase approached the flight counter of Northwest Orient Airlines at Portland International Airport. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Now, using cash, this man bought a one-way ticket on flight 305. It was going to take 30-minute trip to North Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. On his ticket, this man listed his name as Dan Cooper.
Dan Cooper.
Yeah, Dan Cooper. And according to eyewitnesses,
Yes.
they described Dan Cooper as a white male in his mid-40s with dark hair, brown eyes, wearing black or brown business suit, a white shirt, thin black tie, a black raincoat, and brown shoes.
He was very smart.
Yeah, so carrying a black briefcase and a brown paper bag, Cooper boarded flight 305, Boeing 727-100. Actually, the registration was N467 US.
Okay.
So Cooper took seat number 18E in the last row and ordered the flight attendant to bring him a drink. It was a bourbon and 7-Up.
So, to be specific, how many people were in the aeroplane by that time?
Now, the aeroplane by that time is having 6 crew members.
Okay.
That is Captain William S. Scott, First Officer William B. J. Razatak, Flight Engineer Harold E. Anderson, and 3 flight attendants. Okay. There were Alice Arnock, Tina McClough, and Florence Schaffner. Okay. And apart from the 6 crew members, the aeroplane was having 36 passengers on board, including Dan Cooper, the person who would later become the hijacker.
And what happened next?
So, this is what happens next. It is exactly at 2:30 p.m. PST, American time. Shortly, the plane takes off.
Okay.
So Cooper, who is seated in the last row, now looks around and believes that, now, this is the right time for me to begin executing my mission. So as he looked around, he realizes that one of the flight attendants, Schaffner, was seated at the jump seat, just at the rear of the plane, directly behind Cooper himself. So he immediately called Schaffner, the flight attendant. Excuse me, lady, just a little bit. So the lady came to Schaffner, and Cooper gave her a written note. So Schaffner, the flight attendant, thought that, this is just a phone number written by a lonely businessman who has just admired me. So she did not open it to read it right away, to know what the note was about.
She just ignored it.
Yeah, she just dropped the note in her purse.
Okay.
So when Dan Cooper realizes that this lady has not given any attention to what he has just written, so for the flight attendant to read,
Continue.
Dan Cooper leans back. Remember, the flight attendant was seated right back to Dan Cooper, leaned back towards her and whispered that, hey, baby girl, you better read that note right now. because you have no idea what I have. I have a bomb.
A bomb?
Yes.
So, what was the reaction of this flight attendant? Didn't she get scared?
Remember, the plane is airborne, above, moving. Schaffner, the flight attendant, decides to open the note. In that note, Cooper had written in capital letters that, Miss, I have a bomb in my briefcase, and I want you to come and sit right next to me. Yes! Schaffner, the flight attendant, became shocked that, what? And she slowly returned the note back to Dan Cooper and went and sat right next to Dan Cooper as he requested, and quietly asked him that, please, show me the bomb. Dan Cooper opens the briefcase, and the flight attendant sees 2 rows of 4 red cylinders attached with a wire and large cylindrical battery, which was surely resembling a bomb.
I think now tense moment was coming.
Wait and see. Remember, the plane is still moving. The cabin crew is not aware of what is going on.
Of course.
All the 35 passengers are not aware of what is taking place, apart from Dan Cooper, the hijacker, and Schaffner, the flight attendant, who decided to keep it a secret to avoid chaos and tension among passengers.
That was wise.
Now, after the flight attendant seeing the bomb in the briefcase, Cooper closes the briefcase. You get?
Yes.
And told Schaffner, the flight attendant, all his demands. He told the flight attendant to write a note with exact Cooper's demands in his exact words, which she did.
Okay.
She took it to the cockpit and informed the flight crew of the situation that is taking place. So the pilot, Captain Scott, directed Schaffner, the flight attendant, to remain in the cockpit for the remainder of the flight and take notes of the events as they unfolded. You get it?
Okay.
He then contacted the Northwest Flight Operations in Minnesota and relayed the hijacker's demand. That is what was going on.
First, wait. What were exactly Dan Cooper's demands?
When the pilots looked at Dan Cooper's request note, it was saying that I have a bomb with me. I can detonate it any time from now, and everyone shall perish. Jesus! But for this not to happen, I demand the following. 1. I demand $200,000 put in a sack by 5 p.m.
Okay.
And remember, $200,000 that time, right now it could be like $1.5 million.
Big money.
Second demand was, I demand 2 front parachutes and 2 back parachutes. The third demand was, I demand this money in American currency.
Okay.
Then he finished by saying that this is a warning. By requesting 2 sets of parachutes means that I plan to take 1 hostage with me. So if you dare and supply me with 1 non-functional equipment, the hostage will die. That was what was taking place.
Okay. Do you mean the situation was still calm among the passengers?
Remember, the plane is still moving.
Yes.
But by now, the whole cabin crew is now aware about the situation because Schaffner, one of the flight attendants, had already broken the news to the cabin crew.
Okay.
But the passengers are still not aware about the tense situation. So since Schaffner was earlier directed by the pilot to remain at the cockpit and write notes about every unfolding situation, the second flight attendant, McLaw, was directed to sit next to the hijacker Dan Cooper to act as a liaison or go-between between the hijacker and the flight crew.
This is getting so interesting, isn't it?
Yes. Exactly. Soon after, the plane is finally about to land at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, the arrival destination. Now, This is when the hijacker Dan Cooper comes up with additional demands before landing at Seattle.
Another demand again?
Yeah, he said that first wait, the fuel trucks must meet the plane and all passengers must remain seated until the money that I demand is brought in the plane. And he also said that I will only release the passengers after I have the money. He also said that the last items to be brought in the plane should be the 4 parachutes that I demand.
Did the plane finally land?
No, the plane did not land. As the plane was still making circles above Seattle-Tacoma International Airport in order to buy time for the passengers not to realize that something was wrong, Captain Scott, the pilot, informed the Seattle-Tacoma Airport ATC, Air Traffic Control, of the situation, who contacted the police and the FBI. So in order to buy time, as the aeroplane was still making circles above the airport, the passengers were told that their arrival in Seattle will be delayed because of minor mechanical difficulty. So quickly, the authorities authorized the payment of the ransom and ordered all the employees to cooperate with the hijacker and comply with his demands. So for approximately 2 hours, that aeroplane was still circling above the airport. In order to give Seattle police and the FBI sufficient time to assemble Cooper's demand and the parachutes, that was the reason as to why that plane was still circling above the airport. And also they did that so that they could also mobilize emergency personnel.
You mean all that time the plane was still circling around above the airport?
Yes. As the plane is still rotating above the airport, the hijackers' demands are being worked upon. The $200,000 US ransom was received from Seattle First National Bank in a bag. It was 9 kilograms, imagine. But interestingly, all that money had serial numbers which began with letter L, meaning that it was from the Federal Reserve Bank. And all that money was photographed by the FBI.
And the aeroplane is still above in the sky?
Yeah, technically, at around 5:24 p.m. PST, American time, the plane is still rotating above Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Captain Scott was finally informed that the parachutes had been delivered to the airport and notified Dan Cooper that they would be landing soon. So at exactly 5:46 p.m., Flight 305 landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. So with Cooper's permission, Pilot Scott was allowed to park the aircraft slightly away from the main terminal. So Cooper demanded that only one representative of the airline to approach the plane with the parachutes and the money. And the only entrance and exit will be through the aircraft's front door via the mobile air stairs.
So what happened next?
This is what happened next. Mark Lowe, a flight attendant who was seated with hijacker Dan Cooper throughout the whole journey upon his demands, exited the aircraft through the front door and retrieved the ransom money. When she returned, she carried the money past the seated passengers. Imagine the passengers weren't knowing what was going on. Direct to Dan Cooper, the last row. So Cooper then agreed to release the passengers as he inspected the money.
Were the passengers now safe?
Yes. As the passengers safely moved out of the plane, only hijacker Dan Cooper and 6 crew members remained on board. In accordance with Cooper's demands, flight attendant Mark Lowe brought the parachutes to him in the rear of the plane. That's when Dan Cooper said that even the flight attendants could now leave if they wanted. But he did not want flight attendant Mark Lowe to leave. But one thing you should know is that there came a problem of refueling process of the plane, and it caused a huge delay. This made Dan Cooper to think that actually it is the FBI which is trying to plot to make tricks on how to arrest him. Because it took 3 trucks to complete the refueling of the aircraft. This is when some of the aviation authorities officials requested a face-to-face meeting with Cooper aboard the aircraft, but Cooper denied the request.
Was there any plan ahead?
Yeah, so Cooper becomes impatient and he starts saying, "What's going on? I will blow everything up. This should take so long. Let's get the show on the road." You get it? So immediately, he gave the cockpit crew his flight plan and directives towards Mexico City at a minimum airspeed possible without stalling the aircraft, approximately 185 kilometers per hour, at a maximum of 3,000 meters altitude. Cooper also specified the landing gear must remain deployed or open. The flap wings must be lowered 15 degrees and the cabin must remain unpressurized. So, the first pilot, Ratazak, informed Dan Cooper that if the plane moves according to your configuration or specification, it will limit the aircraft's range to about 1,000 miles. That is around 1,600 kilometers. So he said that a second refueling would be necessary before entering Mexico. So Cooper and the crew discussed and agreed on Reno Tahoe International Airport as the next place for refueling.
Okay. Was the plane ready to make another journey?
Not yet. Listen. Before the plane taking off again, Dan Cooper makes further demands. He further directed that the plane should take off when the rear exit door is open and its air stair extended.
Okay.
But he was advised that this was very unsafe. Cooper countered by saying that no, it can be done. Do it now or I blow everything up. You get? Then finally, they agreed to lower the staircase once they were airborne.
Okay.
He demanded that McLaw, who was the flight attendant, to remain on board with Dan Cooper to assist him in the operation. At around 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 takes off from Seattle Tacoma International Airport with only 5 people. That is the hijacker Dan Cooper himself with 4 crew members. That is McLaw, the flight attendant, Captain Scott, First Officer Ratazak, and Flight Engineer Anderson, all on board. The FBI, on the other hand, got a reinforcement from the US authorities, whereby 2 jet fighters from McCord Air Force Base were launched to follow up the plane secretly from behind without the knowledge of hijacker Dan Cooper and away from his view.
Okay. So the plane was airborne again.
Yes. As the plane was airborne again moving, hijacker Dan Cooper told McLaw to lower the aft staircase so that he can jump out. What? But in several occasions, which involved fear, disagreement between the flight attendant McLaw and hijacker Dan Cooper, McLaw failed to do so, claiming that the strong winds would suck her out. And finally, Dan Cooper directed McLaw to go to the cockpit since the hijacker decided to lower the stair himself.
Oh my God!
He ordered the flight attendant to close the curtains between the coach and the first class sections and not to return. But before the cabin was closed, the flight crew asked the hijacker Dan Cooper, "So what about the bomb? Please take it away, okay?" So the hijacker answered that I will do 2 things. I will either disarm it or take it with me. So never worry anything. Cool.
So the hijacker is now seated alone in the passenger section.
Yes, the hijacker is now alone in the passenger section. And it is at night, 8 p.m. The plane is moving. A cockpit warning light flashed, indicating that the aft staircase has been opened.
Okay.
There was too much pressure because of the strong wind which was coming in the plane. So the pilot used the cabin intercom to ask Cooper if he needed any assistance. But Cooper just replied with only one word, that no. So the flight crew remained in the cockpit, unsure whether Dan Cooper has jumped out of the plane or is still in the plane.
Okay.
So McLaw used the cabin intercom again to inform Cooper that we are now approaching Reno Tahoe International Airport for refueling. You needed to raise the staircase so that we could land safely. She repeated her request again and again as the pilots made the final approach to land. But neither McLaw nor the flight crew received any reply from the hijacker.
Jesus! Jesus is Lord.
Did the plane finally land again?
This is what happened. It was exactly at 11:02 p.m. in the night, with the aft staircase still open. Flight 305 landed at Reno Tahoe International Airport.
Okay.
So immediately, the FBI agents, state troopers, sheriff deputies, and the Reno police established a perimeter around the aircraft. But fearing that the hijacker and the bomb were still in the plane, so they did not approach the plane. But Captain Scott, who was in the plane, searched the whole cabin and confirmed that Dan Cooper was no longer on board. And after 30 minutes search, the FBI bomb squad declared the cabin safe.
So, how did the hijacker escape?
Immediately, the FBI agents started a series of investigations and still puzzled that how can this person escape just like that? The FBI tried their search using latent fingerprint aboard the airliner. No success. They interviewed several witnesses. No success. They tried to develop a series of composite sketches. No success. The FBI went ahead to question possible suspects who shared the same name like Dan Cooper. Still no success. Remember, the two jet fighters from the Air Force F-106, which were along behind following the plane, but interestingly, none of the pilots saw anyone jumping from the airliner. Even their radar did not detect a deployed parachute. They claim that there was limited visibility, cloud cover, and lack of ground lighting. So those pilots who were following did not make any visual contact with the aeroplane, which was ahead, imagine. So maybe they were just on a free air tour.
So, what exactly happened after?
All kind of investigations failed, which included the FBI aerial search using helicopters. With the help of sheriffs, they searched the heavily wooded terrains, farmhouses, even patrol boats were deployed to search the nearby Yale Lake, but nothing. Neither hijacker Dan Cooper nor any equipment which he presumably used was found. Now, here comes another year, 1972. The FBI gets a reinforcement of 200 soldiers, United States Air Force personnel, National Guardsmen, and civilian volunteers for a thorough search. Even the submarine was deployed to search 200-foot, 61-meter depth nearby Lake Marvin.
Submarine?
The FBI also used a computer projection to detect Cooper's drop zone, but nothing about hijacker Dan Cooper or any of the equipment he used could be detected. This remained to be a very big mystery.
Indeed. Then this must have been a very big puzzle in history of aviation.
Yes, because remember, the FBI had earlier photographed the money before handing it over to Dan Cooper. So they used that to inform the public that they were going to issue a huge reward of between $1,000 to $5,000 to anyone who turned up with the money having those required serial numbers. They distributed the list of suspect serial numbers in all casinos, financial institutions, hotels, and any other places where large money transactions were done. But the efforts done by the FBI were futile with no success. The only ransom money ever to be found was on February 10th, 1980. An 8-year-old kid, Brian Ingram, was vacationing with his family on the Columbian River. That is when that kid found a bundle of around $5,800 in a bundle while he was raking the sand on the riverbank.
Okay.
So FBI technicians confirmed that the money was indeed a portion of the ransom money which was given to Dan Cooper in 1971. But still, this brought more questions than answers.
How long did this search take?
The search and investigation continued for 45 good years. And on July 8, 2016, the FBI announced the active investigation of Cooper case was suspended officially, citing the need to focus investigation resources and manpower on issues of higher, more urgent priority. And to date, no discoveries traceable to the hijacking have been reported anywhere. This remains to be the biggest hijacking mystery of all time. And indeed, this was a 10-0 game. And therefore, continue. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories like this. This man! Thank you for subscribing. See you again.